finds us in a similar way. It usually comes when we're not our best selves, like when we're super tired or really lonely or just fed up with life. That's when temptation shows up and it's the hardest to resist. That happened to Jesus too. Now, it's true that Jesus wasn't tempted to steal a cool pair of jeans or go too far with someone he was dating or stay up late playing online games like we might be. But he was tempted over and over again. When he was tired, lonely, hot, and hungry, Jesus faced temptation to give in to what wasn't his Father's best for him. And while we ultimately know he didn't give in to things he was tempted with, we do know this: Jesus understands temptation. We see this in what was written in a book of the Bible called Hebrews. Hebrews is in the New Testament, the part of the Bible that was written about Jesus and the start of the Christian church. In the culture at the time this was written, there was a lot of temptation to turn away from God and enjoy what looked like an easier life. So in an effort to help them out, the writer of Hebrews wrote them this letter. Did the letter say that these were bad people because they faced temptation? Did it say they weren't being faithful followers of Jesus? Did it say that they were wrong? Well, let's take a look at what it said. I think we need to break this down a little. The phrase high priest is used to describe Jesus here. The role of the high priest in the Jewish culture, where most of the audience would have been from, was to act as the middle person between followers of God and God himself. But when Jesus died and came back to life, he became the ultimate high priest, removing anything that would keep us from God. So when the writer said that we have the high priest who emphasizes or understands our weakness and our temptations, he was talking about Jesus. So does temptation mean you're bad or wrong or not good enough? Not at all. Because the reality is everyone faces temptation. You, me, your teachers, your siblings, your parents, your best friend, even Jesus. Everybody faces temptation, and because of that, we can know that we're not failing or struggling or facing it alone when we deal with it. Remember, even Jesus himself faced temptation, and Jesus never made any mistakes. Not a single one. What does that tell us? Well, that facing temptation isn't wrong. It's not the desire to do something that's wrong, it's the choice that we make that can lead us down the wrong path. The last part of the verse reminds us that when we're faced with temptation, Jesus made the choice to resist. He didn't let it lead him into making a bad decision. And the same can be true for us. Temptation doesn't have to lead to sin. And I think one of the things that can help us choose not to give in and move toward a mistake is remembering that facing temptation, we're not alone when we do. We can remember that in Jesus, we can find somebody who gets it. Remember, everybody faces temptation. And because we know that's true, here are a few things that we can do the next time we find ourselves struggling with temptation. First, remember what's true about you. Bad choices don't make us bad people. One mistake doesn't mean we're messed up for good. The desire to do something we know we shouldn't doesn't make us anything other than human. So when we find ourselves facing temptation, we need to remember what's true. We are God's good creation. We are loved and known and understood by him. And there's nothing we can do that will ever change anything about what he says is true about us. And then remember to invite Jesus into it. Remember, Jesus understands what we're feeling when we face temptation. He gets it. And because of that, he can help us stand firm when we're facing it. If you're dealing with a temptation to do something you know isn't good for you, invite Jesus into the situation. Ask for his help. Pray that he'll remind you that he not only loves you, but he understands you. And then invite somebody else into it. Since everybody faces temptation, then that means that there are friends, trusted adults, and other people in your life who also know what you're going through. And because of that, you don't have to face this alone. Tell a trusted friend or an adult about this. Invite them to encourage, support, and walk with you as you work to choose God's best for your life. This is why we have leaders and junior leaders. Your leaders and friends in your youth group can be so helpful in navigating this stuff with you. Everybody faces temptation, and that means you can face it together. So as you head out today, I want you to think about this question. Who's one person you can talk about temptation with?